Hey guys, I'm back. So, tonight, what I want to do is I want to do a class or a video on essential oils, and that is a huge, huge topic. But I'm going to limit this to hopefully a very short video, but also that we're going to cover just six, not five, six topics. Those being the history of plants used medicinally. What about the plant makes it useful to us or beneficial to us? What are volatile oils? And are they the same every time in every plant? And how do we get the oils from the plants? Are they safe? And how do we use them? That's a lot to cover, but I don't want to bore you tonight, but I do want to educate you. First, I want to talk about history. Okay, let's face it. Plants have been being used for just about ever for treatment of illnesses and injuries. We can go back and look at history, okay? The first written um, documentation that exists where it shows that plants were used medicinally was on a tablet that was written about 5,000 years ago. It was found in the city of Nippur. It's a Sumerian clay pot tablet, and it had written on it 12 recipes for drug preparations made out of plants. It also talked about 250 other plants that were used. So that's our first written or known written record of plants that have been used medicinally. But we also know that the Egyptians used plants. The Chinese, they use plant. They still use it today. Indians, meaning Indians, they still use plants and plant products for the use to treat illnesses and injuries. Native American Indians. So I think it's fair to say that many cultures have used plants medicinally for pretty much as long as, man has existed. And I think that goes back to, that always makes me question, well, why don't we do that in the United States? It's a good question. Um, in fact, why is it that um, it seems that, healthcare professionals are um, against using supplements and um, plants for medicinal purposes, herbs and essential oils? It's a good question. Well, I think being a healthcare provider at some point, and being trained from a healthcare professional standpoint, I think it's fair to say that maybe one of the biggest challenges in their defense is that we don't have a lot of regulations about herbs and oils. So there's no way to get a consistent product. But, you know, that doesn't mean it isn't effective. I'm not going to go down that path. I could, but I'm going to stay away from that for right now. I want to talk about the plant and what about the plant makes it beneficial to us as humans. Well, think about your plant. You've got a stem, you've got branches and leaves, and maybe a flower, and you've got a root system. And the plant doesn't have a quote circulatory system, meaning blood doesn't flow from it, but there is a substance in it that flows from the top to the bottom of the plant and to all the various portions of the plant. And that substance, it actually protects the plant from disease and also from predators, from bugs. And when we eat plants, we get that organic compound of the substance that is in this plant, and then it becomes fuel or a component, an organic compound that then again is good for our bodies. Now, obviously, there are some plants that are not good for us. You wouldn't go out and pick poison ivy and put it in your salad. You wouldn't go out and pick a flower off of the oleander bush and eat that because it's poisonous. So there are some plants that are toxic. And so it's important to know what it is that you should and should not be eating. And also, it's important to know what its uses are. But plants contain this substance, and it's known as a volatile oil. Okay, and the volatile oil can be in the leaves, it can be in the stems, it can be in the roots, it can be in the flower of that plant. And the quantity of the volatile oil is determined by the setting in which that plant was grown. Was there adequate lighting? Was the soil fertile? Or did it rain enough? There's a lot of different factors that affect the quantity and the quality of the essential oil. So all of these things come into play. You know, you can have plant A and plant B, and they can be the exact same plant, but when the oil is extracted and looked at chemically, it may look different, not in the substances themselves. In other words, the components will be the same, but the quality or the efficacy, the effectiveness of those oils may be changed based upon how those plants are grown or what environment that they've been grown in. So that's very important to remember, especially when we start thinking about how are we going to choose which essential oils to use. I want you to think about that. So how that plant was grown and how it was produced will in fact have an impact on how effective that oil is. You know, the next thing I want to talk about is how do we get the oils, the volatile oils, from the plant? I want you to think about an orange. When you peel that orange and you immediately smell the orange smell, and then even after you've eaten your orange and you've thrown the peel away, you still have that smell on your hands. And that's a good example of a volatile oil. The oil in the orange oil that is one of the oils that we're going to talk about in some other videos, that oil exists in the peeling of that fruit, just like lemons. And in order to get that oil out of the peelings, they use a process called cold press, and they press it out of there. And it takes a lot of oranges, as you can imagine, in order to get even one drop of oil. So cold press is one way that oils can be extracted from plants, plant materials. Another way is steam distilling, and I actually have a distiller myself. I bought one because I thought, you know what, I'm going to make my own essential oils. Well, that was before I realized how much plant material you needed in order to even get just a little bit of oil. It wasn't worth it. So I still have that though, so I know how the process works. And so what happens is you have this flask, and it sits on top of another little container. I don't remember what the exact name of it is. And your plant material goes in that. You have water in this flask, and it heats up, and the steam rises, and then it goes up through a condenser, and all of this stuff separates from the oil itself, which drops down into another container. And eventually, after a very long process, you have about this much oil, not very much. But of course, in production of, mass production, they have a lot bigger, steam distilleries, and they're able to extract those oils a lot better than I did on my kitchen table. Excuse me. So there's a lot of different ways that you can extract those oils, and those are just two. Another way is CO2 extraction, and I'm not well versed in that, but it is another way that oils can be extracted from the plant material. Again, what I want to focus on, though, is the process by which these oils are extracted from the plants. It's not the same in every company. And so when you get ready to start choosing where you're going to get your oils, I want you to think about that also. And I want you to stop and think about, what kinds of processes are in place to ensure the quality of the oil that you're going to be receiving, because the potency, the efficacy, the effectiveness, I should say, is important. If you're going to use an essential oil, then it needs to be um, what I call unadulterated, and it also needs to be effective. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time. In fact, you could be harming yourself. So that's something to consider as we move on. Uh, are they safe? Well, I'll say that oils are safe as long as they're used according to the recommendations and they're not overused. Um, because oils are so potent and strong, you can get some irritation. There are some situations that you can actually harm yourself from using too much oil. Um, but isn't that true with everything? Really? Um, I like to think about oregano oil. Okay, oregano oil, I'm not going to go into a whole lot about it, but it's a spicy, warm oil. You wouldn't think so. I mean, I didn't think so until I bought some oregano oil, and you know, me and my infinite wisdom, I had done a lot of reading about oregano oil and how it was just really a great oil from an antimicrobial standpoint, and I had um, a need for that. I don't remember exactly why. I know I was on vacation, but I was on vacation and I had a problem, and I decided I would go pick up some oregano oil, and I did, and I put a drop in my mouth, and I thought, oh my God, I could not believe it. It was more spicy than black pepper. It was more spicy than jalapeno pepper. And I can see how, if you use that incorrectly, you could actually cause an irritation in your, if you were ingesting it, you could cause an irritation in your esophagus, kind of not a chemical, because it's not a chemical, but like a burning sensation. And I can also see how it could cause skin irritation. So, it's really important to use the oils as they're recommended to be used. Don't just, go out there and figure it out on your own. Um, but from a safety standpoint, I would say there's certainly less side effects associated with the essential oils than there are the chemically made medications that you see in the pharmacy. And the reason I say that is because um, if you look at prescriptions and you look at all the side effects that are attached to that, it's crazy. It makes me not want to take them. Now, I do when I have to, but it makes me not want to. It makes me want to eat healthy, get plenty of sleep, drink plenty of fluid, the right fluids, water, and, take care of myself and exercise so I don't need any medication. Um, okay, enough about that. Let's talk about how they're used. How are oils used? Well, I think about it like medicine, okay? In medicine, you can have um, medicine that is delivered uh, by mouth. We call that PO, by mouth, that it's ingested. We have medicine that is applied topically, and the same is true for essential oils. It can be applied to the skin. Um, Essential oils can be ingested. Certain oils, there are some that cannot, but it could be ingested. We have medications that are inhaled, like with an inhaler. And while we don't have an inhaler for essential oils, we have diffusers which put the oils in such small little molecules they get in airborne, and then we breathe those. Um, we also can, um, I've heard of people well, I'm going to stop there. Those are the three main ways that essential oils are used. They're ingested, they're applied topically, and they are inhaled or breathed in. Those are the three main ways. There are other ways, but those are the three main ways that essential oils are used. And, you know, I just want you to know about oils, basically. I want you to know that they've been being used for many, many years, almost since the beginning of time. I want you to know what about the plant makes it a beneficial substance for our bodies and how that works. And I want you to know about, um, you know, how the way a plant is produced or grown, how that can actually affect the quality of the oil that is received. And I also want you to know that there's a process by which we get those oils out, not me, but that companies get that oil out, and that they are safe when used as directed. And then again, how they're used. And just lastly, I'll say again that essential oils can be applied topically, they can be ingested, and they can be breathed in. Those are the three main ways. Well, this video was about, I don't know, 15 minutes. I hope it wasn't too boring. And I hope you got, some basic information out of it. I hope it helps you. The next video that we cover is going to be how to select where you get your oils. How are we going to do that? I look forward to talking to you next time. Thanks.